It's all about explaining why and how we have subjective experiences, things like feeling pain, seeing colors, or tasting your favorite food. These are called qualia, the individual instances of subjective experiences. To understand this better, let's break it down. There are what we call easy problems of consciousness. These include how our brains process information, how we recognize faces, or how we react to sounds. Scientists can study these by looking at the brain's structure and dynamics. They can see which parts of the brain light up when you look at a photo or listen to music. These easy problems can be explained by understanding the mechanics of the brain. But here's where it gets tricky. The hard problem asks a deeper question. Why do these brain processes come with an experience? Why do we feel something when our brains are working? For instance, why does the process of light hitting your eyes result in the experience of seeing the color red? Philosophers have long debated this. One famous thought experiment they use is the idea of a philosophical zombie. Imagine a creature that looks and acts exactly like a human but doesn't have any subjective experience, no feelings, no inner life. It reacts to things, but there's nothing going on inside. But it illustrates the gap in our understanding. Another thought experiment is inverted qualia. Think about two people who see colors differently. What if what you see is red, someone else sees as blue? But because we've both learned to call it red, we'd never know the difference. This shows how personal and inaccessible our experiences are to others. The hard problem of consciousness remains unsolved because no one can explain why our brain's processes come with a side of experience. Even if we could map out every neural connection, we still wouldn't know why it feels like something to be you. Let's take a step back and look at a broader issue in the philosophy of mind, the mind-body problem. The mind-body problem is the problem of how the mind and the body relate. It's a more general issue than the hard problem of consciousness because it tackles the relationship between the mind and body in any theoretical framework. So what does this mean? Essentially, it's about understanding how our mental states, like beliefs, desires, and emotions, relate to our physical states, like brain activity and bodily functions. This problem has puzzled philosophers for centuries. From Descartes' dualism, which argues that mind and body are distinct, to modern theories like physicalism, which suggests they are one and the same. The hard problem, on the other hand, focuses specifically on why and how we have subjective experiences, and is often seen as a challenge uniquely faced by physicalist or materialist theories of mind. In other words, while the mind-body problem asks how the mind and body interact, the hard problem asks why these interactions come with a conscious experience. Let's explore a fascinating thought experiment posed by philosopher Thomas Nagel in his 1974 paper titled, "What is it like to be a bat?" Nagel challenges us to consider the subjective nature of experience. He argues that experiences are essentially subjective, meaning they are accessible only to the individual undergoing them, felt only by the one feeling them. On the other hand, physical states are essentially objective, accessible to multiple individuals. So what does this mean in simpler terms? Imagine trying to understand what it's like to be a bat. Bats navigate the world using echolocation, a sensory experience vastly different from our own. Nagel suggests that no matter how much we learn about the physical processes involved in echolocation, we can never truly know what it feels like to be a bat. This is because the subjective experience of being a bat is fundamentally inaccessible to us as humans. Nagel's thought experiment highlights a critical issue: the gap between subjective experiences and objective physical states. He argues that we have no idea what it means to claim that an essentially subjective state is the same as an essentially non-subjective state. In other words, we don't understand how a felt state could merely be a functional state. Nagel believes that every subjective phenomenon is inherently tied to a single point of view, and it seems inevitable that an objective physical theory will abandon that point of view. Now let's delve into another captivating thought experiment: philosophical zombies. Philosophical zombies are hypothetical beings that look and behave exactly like humans, but lack conscious experience. Imagine a person who acts, speaks, and reacts just like you, but has no inner life, no subjective experience. This thought experiment is often used in discussions of the hard problem of consciousness. Philosophers like David Chalmers, Joseph Levine, and Saul Kripke argue that while such zombies are impossible within the bounds of nature, they are conceivable within the bounds of logic. This suggests that facts about conscious experience are not logically entailed by physical facts alone. In simpler terms, consciousness cannot be fully explained by physical processes. As Chalmers puts it, after God hypothetically created the world, he had more work to do. This implies that something beyond physical facts is needed to account for consciousness, making it irreducible. However, not all philosophers agree. Daniel Dennett, a prominent philosopher of mind, criticizes the use of the zombie hunch. He finds it an embarrassment and argues that it should be dropped like a hot potato. Dennett believes that the concept of philosophical zombies does not advance our understanding of consciousness but rather muddles it. After exploring the enigmatic concept of philosophical zombies, let's turn our attention to another fascinating thought experiment in the philosophy of mind: the knowledge argument, also known as Mary's room. Imagine a brilliant neuroscientist named Mary. Mary has spent her entire life in a black and white room, never experiencing color firsthand. Despite this, she possesses exhaustive knowledge about the brain and the processes involved in color perception. She knows everything there is to know about how our brains process the color red, from the wavelengths of light to the neural mechanisms triggered by viewing it. Philosopher David Chalmers posits that when Mary finally steps out of her monochromatic world and sees the color red for the first time, she gains new knowledge, specifically the knowledge of what red looks like. This experience is distinct from and irreducible to her prior physical knowledge. This suggests that there are aspects of consciousness, known as qualia, that cannot be fully explained by physical processes alone. A stronger form of the knowledge argument goes even further. It claims that Mary would not just lack subjective knowledge of what red looks like, but that she would be missing an objective fact about the world: what red looks like. A fact that can only be learned through direct experience. However, not everyone agrees with this perspective. Thomas Nagel, for example, takes a physicalist stance. Nagel has proposed the speculative idea of developing a language that could explain to a person blind from birth what it is like to see. According to the knowledge argument, such a language could never exist, as the experience of seeing color is fundamentally non-physical and cannot be conveyed through words or scientific descriptions alone. In conclusion, the hard problem of consciousness remains one of the most intriguing and challenging questions in philosophy and science. Despite various theories and perspectives, the true nature of consciousness continues to elude us. As we delve deeper into the mysteries of the mind, we may one day uncover the answers that have long evaded us. Until then, the journey of understanding consciousness is as fascinating as the phenomenon itself. So, whether it's grappling with the abstract notion of philosophical zombies, pondering the implications of Mary's room, or questioning the very essence of what it means to be conscious, one thing is clear: consciousness remains a profound enigma.